Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz.
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk. Welcome to Retired.
Today we have an interesting topic, and I think it's going to be a very heartfelt one. We're going to be talking about In the Good Light with Andrea Gisbon, and our feelings around all of it. It started with a conversation with me saying, "Hey, Tina, have you ever heard Andrea Gisbon? Have you heard this poem?" And it was about climate change, and that's what I wanted to kind of talk about. But at the same time, this documentary was being released, so we decided to watch the documentary together apart.
So, first, I'd like to know I had never even heard of her until you brought it up. And apparently, she's quite famous. Where have I been? How did you discover her and when did you discover her?
I'm not sure how I came across Andrea Gisbon, but they are out in the public domain a lot. I guess I spend time on Facebook, and so
Oh,
a lot of their performances are on Facebook and they're just so um, engaging and powerful and emotional. How can you not look at the clip when it comes up, and then as you listen, you realize how powerful and amazing this is. You know, I tried to find writing, but their writing is harder to find. You got to go online and you got to order, I guess, the whole book and stuff. I'm not a big sit down and read a poetry book. I like this performative stuff, and yet at the same time, it's so overpowering and strong that you can only take so much of it. Is my feeling. But anyhow, it's been at least a few years.
well, I really, in some ways, had no idea what to expect. I just started Googling. You sent the excerpts or, the poem. Um, and then I just jumped into the documentary. And what was interesting is that I listen and follow Glennon Doyle's "We Can Do Hard Things"
Right?
with that, and so that actually was the beginning because they were in fact part of the whole production of the documentary, and then they interviewed Megan Falley, which was Andrea's partner. So it began there with me on my journey. So this is all new within the last weekend. And it's been a journey, Sue.
Well, and for me, I also, one of the other podcasts I listen to a lot is I listen to whatever Tig Notaro's on. I think she's hilarious. And her most recent podcast is Handsome. And that one's a hilarious one. And so they've talked about Andrea Gisbon. She's, I think, appeared on some of Tig's either Handsome or a different podcast that Tig was on. But also Tig and her wife, Stephanie Allen, they were also producers on this film. So it's a whole big loving circle of people who want to spread good and positive and powerful wisdom out into the world. And this is just an amazing piece of work. Okay, so let's get into it. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings about this? We're talking about the documentary we just saw. It was just released, in fact, on Apple TV. It's called Come See Me in the Good Light.
Well, it brought up a lot. As we are, again, it ties into this side of retirement. I was astounded at how young Andrea was and how life really is so short, Sue, and it really is so unpredictable.
Yeah, they died of ovarian cancer, and it was a long haul. I mean, they
Double
had
time.
a lot of extra time that it was interesting because when you get a diagnosis like this, that okay, I've got ovarian cancer, which is a big one, you can fight it, and then at some point you get this. They got the diagnosis that there's no more treatments, and so then they say we can help you with managing it, or there might be other treatments that come up, and they were willing to do that because apparently they had enough strength and support. But also, I'm thinking maybe, I mean, everyone's cancer is going to be different, how it hits you and how debilitating it might be. But they decided, let's go for it. And they got a lot of time and a lot of extra time. I think they were, what, 45,
9. Oh,
49? Yeah, that's
with the
right. Yeah.
diagnosis, yeah.
They were 49 when Andrea died. And
Oh, 49, yeah.
yeah, and their wife is substantially
35.
younger. And I think, that's another dynamic when you've got someone who, in a marriage that is more than 10 years older than you or younger than you. It's got to be a different kind of take on things. Mortality at some point is going to come into play, but you wouldn't think that it would come into play at this early in life.
No, this is the easy time, so you would think.
Well, and that's the thing with Andrea Gibson. They've got this amazing energy and full of life. I mean, the way that they say their poem, it's spoken poetry, is just so wrapped in energy and life that it is this strange that it seems like, they're too young. They're too young.
So I want to start with the most powerful takeaway statements that came, which was their partner, Megan,
Their wife.
who had dealt with body image her entire life and had was very critical of her body, had been criticized for her body for not having been the perfect svelte figure in American society. And then here comes Andrea, who loves her body, like never even occurs to her that there's something wrong with it. And then here she is dying, and she says, what I would give to just have a body, which really made an impact on Megan, thinking, wow, here I've spent all these years with this shame and criticism and self-dislike. And really, it's all about just having a body is a level of gratitude. And that just stuck with me. I don't know if it stood out to you, but that was like the most shocking, truest takeaway.
That's one of the big themes in there. And that I like the gratitude, the appreciation that you said, we all look at our shell and go, oh, these are things that we'd like to change or wish were different or whatever. And when it comes down to the moment where there's not a lot of life left, you can be put in because not everyone's death is going to be the same way, but you can arrive at a point where you are just so grateful for whatever your body can do, whatever this shell can do, and how much we do this all the time when we get sick, we get a cold, and we go, oh God, I just so take for granted and appreciate what my body is like when I'm healthy. And it's a reminder to do that every day. And then, like you said, with the body image stuff, to get beyond that, it's hard because we live in a society where people are looking all the time, looking and judging all the time. And so it's about having that wherewithal inside yourself to know that you're grateful for what you have. And it's up to society to kind of catch up with some of that intellectually.
There was another tie-in with the podcast, We Can Do Hard Things. And it also stuck with me that I don't even know if I can say it correctly, but here, Andrea had 4 years and she wanted to evolve as a human. And she did. But the discussion was really, if she had not had this diagnosis, it was like the thing to give her the life she had always wanted, because she let go of all these things that were so insignificant, and it made her become the person she wanted to become. And in some ways, where I get emotional is that it's so sad we spend so many decades of our lives not being that person. And then when you're staring death in the face, then that's the thing that has to change it. But it's just, it was kind of a beautiful thing. It was like this full circle. Like, so she ended up dying the person she came here to want to become. And it's kind of a beautiful, sad thing, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
So that was the takeaway there too.
Well,
How
it's
about for you? Yeah.
well the messages of gratitude, but also being your authentic self, your vulnerable best self. And we live in this world where we're kind of trained not to be vulnerable, and
And to guard that authenticity.
yeah, and not ask for help, and not be yourself and push yourself into what society says you're supposed to do. And so, and we I think we all know this. I mean, if we understand our authentic selves, we know that we can't do this alone. It's um, and then to open yourself up fully and completely. They were talking about when they got this diagnosis, and there was a moment where everything just becomes beautiful. I mean, you see the
Yeah.
light as it comes through the trees and casts shadows on the ground, or the bird flying, or the silly dumb things that happen, like they can't keep their post office box, their mailbox, from falling down, and they
Right.
have to keep rebuilding it. And rather than get angry and scream at the system, why can't they just accept it the way that it is? And just laughing and figuring out how to solve that problem. That you know this mirrors our everyday. I mean, every once in a while we do have those moments, don't you? When you like this, I'm driving along and I see the sun on the field, and the light is just gorgeous, and the colors are vibrant, and it's just a moment of awe. Do you get those?
Oh, fleeting. Yes, but they're so big and it's so sad that they're so fleeting.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's been interesting, and this kind of opened it up as I'm dealing with so many transitions right now. I haven't felt uh, in life, and that is the being present. I really have not witnessed the rain like I normally would. I haven't been witnessing the small things like I normally do much more. Um, and it's kind of a something that came back through this documentary. Just it's the little things that we just don't pay attention to that are actually the big things.
Yeah, and we pay attention to it, but only to a certain extent, and we don't come back to we don't come back to that. We don't come back
It's
to
not our
embracing
default.
it. Right. We don't make it center in our life and embrace it. Yeah.
One of I think my struggles has been as I've moved back here into a community that was very different from the one we were in, where there's much travel, much reading, much educating. I'm kind of in this simplistic bubble. And it's been interesting to see how I'm surrounded by people that just have never wanted much from life. Like they haven't traveled, many
Mm.
of them outside of the country. They have no desire to try different places or eat at different restaurants. Like it's a big deal. Like that's the life changing, earth shaking experience. And, you know, from where we are, we're like, well, yeah, did you try that cave restaurant in Italy? I mean, we're the other extreme. And I look at them and I just think they've just kind of, as I have caught myself doing, but not to this degree. It's just getting up, doing the thing, and waiting to die. I almost feel like, you know, like I have this retired couple. They don't even live together. They live in houses next door to each other
Oh,
because they
that is
really can't
funny.
stand each other.
Wow.
Huh?
Wow, that's funny, and such privilege to have two
Two
properties.
houses. I agree. And the luck of them next door. So they live their lives together and separate. And they never have people over. They go to the same In and Out burger every week when they go out to do the outing. They there's nothing. And I look at them and they're in their mid 60s. He finally retired. He owned a business. And it's like they just sit and watch TV. Like that's it. And that to me is so sad. Like we're given this opportunity to live.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is so unliving. And that's it. And that's part of this retirement thing that's been interesting because I've never wanted to just get up and retire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And a
it's
lot
on
of
to the next
people do.
adventure. It's on to the next,
Right.
yeah, the new tread.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I've really connected with you and love this theme because it's like, no, life and even our Sharon, she's out there exploring, questioning, answering, looking, living.
Mm-hmm.
But I am on a street where it's just kind of 20 years doing the same thing. And it's like you've been given this gift and you're not tasting all the fruits of it. And
Yeah.
it's such a disconnect for me.
Well, and you get lulled. Our culture gets lulled into that, and then the attention gets put on what do you buy? Oh, here comes Black Friday, and
Yes.
what do you buy? And how do you soothe yourself with those things you buy and the TV you watch and the food you eat, rather than getting out and doing things and engaging with the world and remembering, capturing those moments. Opening yourself up to those opportunities when you see that beautiful sun hitting on the field in just the right way, or some beautiful poetic thing that someone says. It could be just in passing that you hear that just opens this window of understanding, that awe of life.
And beauty.
Yeah, and this story, Andrea's story, is one that's
Yeah.
told over and over by other people who have the courage and the wherewithal to share that with us and remind us that beauty is out there every day, and we've got to. This is the hard part. How do you not fall back into
Yeah.
the routines of every day when the truth is you've got to be living every day like it's its last and seeing the
You
beauty
do.
and all the things. Unless you have your own cancer diagnosis or you're living with your loved one who is going through this and you're seeing it every day. Part of me, recently, 2025 has been the year of loss. There's been so
Yeah.
much death this year, and grieving goes on, and I think I'm, managing grieving really well. I'm processing it. No, I do. I think that I'm really kind of respecting it. And I also know that grieving just catches you in whatever moment.
Yep.
I remember when your good friend died, and she
Thanks.
also died way out of
43.
yeah, way too young. Similar kind of age, and how you were dealing with it and you knew about it and you're processing it, and then we were walking along downtown and you happened to see the funeral home, and it hit you, and you were just it's like a physical blow, and that's what grief does, and in those moments when that grief hits us, to just kind of let that hit you and then go, oh, here's my reminder. This
Oh.
person's death, my loss of this person, the world's loss of this person, can hit you, and then turn it right into, oh my God, they're telling me, I'm being reminded to live right here, right now, and to take in all the beauty and to make all the difference in the world. We've got to. This is here and now.
Wow. I wish there was like some kind of anchor prayer, anchor chant, anchor thing that it can be part of a routine where you can bring yourself back to it. But
Well, that's up to you to make it for yourself.
right.
Yeah.
But I think as humans, it's really hard. That is such a strength training to get back to that place of wake up and see the beauty, really. Yeah.
One of the other things that has been interesting to me. I mean, there's so many things we can discuss based on this
Just on that.
documentary. We could probably make this into a double or triple
We
one.
could.
But I'd like to come back on another episode and talk about some of their poetry. Here's the thing that it's interesting in doing this. In talking about Andrea, you notice that we're using they, them pronouns. And that is a hard thing. That's been a hard thing for me to do. Not intellectually, not in my mind, but grammatically, having lived a whole life with
trained
and embracing the word. And here's Andrea's like all about embracing the word. Every word has a meaning. And to start using the they, them, I haven't had a lot of practice in that. And, I know I've made a number of slips along the way, and I'm going to go ahead and edit some of those because I correct myself. But some of them are going to be in there because just of the cadence of
we won't even hear it because we're so used to it.
What I found was interesting was that they said before cancer, when they were misgendered, it would just drive her freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And they were so reactive of other people's perceptions of their gender, just reactive massively. And that was part of the mission. I think the mission that they had in life, which was to right the right and fight the fights, climate change, misogyny, and this be the idea of non-gendered, using the correct pronouns. After cancer, they said that that they were feeling so much gender to feeling genderless that it drips off. No reactions to people mispronouncing me, and I just feel like me. And to me, hearing that as I'm trying to wrap my own language around not misgendering someone, I want it to be natural, but it's going to take time because I have to retrain my brain, and it just to feel the honor of someone just being me. And they got to this place where it fell off their back, didn't matter anymore because of the place where they are, but also because that's the place we should be. And so often the misgendering can be done as a weapon with no intent of trying to gender the person correctly.
True.
And embrace people just being themselves. And that's where, you've got to fight back. You've got to fight. And yet, at the same time, we need to get to a place in our society where you don't have to fight back. Because the greater good would be making people understand they need to be a part of that greater good.
That was powerful, Sue. I don't know. And honestly, right before you said, and this is the other thing that stuck with me, that was the exact thing I was going to go to next, was that we are conditioned to have stories about ourselves. We take pieces of what people have told us, pieces of what we want to be, and we create this narrative and we become this character in our little life story. And the reality is, and it's what she came down to, and hopefully we all have this ability at some point without maybe death in the face, is to just be. That's it.
And that's hard when there are forces fighting against you, and there are times when we have to speak up, and we're living among the times when we have to speak up, and there has to be that energy and that anger and the righteousness to turn things around. And yet live that duality of understanding that, the awe of living. I mean, we gotta let people see the awe of living. So I'm hoping, I suspect that a lot of people that should be watching this documentary aren't going to be watching the documentary. No. I can only encourage everybody to do it because we all have to deal with death and dying. And this is just so life affirming. Yeah. And this is so life affirming. It's amazing.
So when I first taught, it was my first year teaching, I had a carpool mate, and we had both graduated from our programs, and she and I would go from our town that we lived in out to Fairfield. And she was a Filipina who was from San Francisco. I loved her. And in a conversation one day, she said to me, "There aren't any Asian people on the news, on television. We now finally have some African American shows," but she's like, "When do you see an Asian?" And that has always been with me, because I realized just how indoctrinated we are to not even see that there are people missing, because we're not missing. So it's impossible to see the other people missing. And that radical conversation, I can see her right now, her face so perfectly. And every time I see now people of every ethnicity on our TV, and I look at Norway and how much it's changed, where there's a large Middle Eastern population now, and they are part of the government who speak perfect, because it's been generations even, where they speak flawless Norwegian. And to think like it wasn't that way before, it was a monoculture. And I just see that we are progressing, we are changing, things are changing. But honestly, TV is kind of important, because that's the way you're going to connect with most people. So I think that shows that show, I remember watching soap operas with my mom, and it was like the first gay couple that was on it. And it was such a controversy, but it also stuck with me how important that is, because that is life. Everything is life, but
Mm-hmm.
our television has been very limited on what life it wants to show.
No,
And I
absolutely.
do feel we've come such a long way. And this show, I think, we need more of this. This should be a show in our schools, which I'm sure I would get fired for even saying in some places, but because that is life. This is life. All of life is life. All people are part of life. All relationships are part of life. And without exposure, that's the problem,
All right.
is the lack of exposure
Yeah.
that limits people in understanding that this in fact is normal, because life is normal and diversity is normal. Normal is diversity.
Yeah, and that's where representation matters, especially in the media. I remember as a child thinking, where are all the women? In children's literature, on
Oh,
TV shows. Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek was really cool. She's African American, and she's
right.
also a woman on the bridge. And then in
You're so right.
children's literature, the female characters are always the mother, or the minor
Yeah.
character, the sister on the
Yeah.
side. I liked To Kill a Mockingbird, and we finally had Scout in there, and she was an active character. I remember as a little kid loving Harriet the Spy, because she actually was the main character and was pretty cool, and was smart, and the hero. Representation matters at all levels, and when it makes us uncomfortable, that's a good sign, because that's a sign of, oop, that's something we need to learn. We need to
That's true. We
understand
need
and
some growth.
embrace. Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember even feeling uncomfortable with the pronoun they. I remember sitting at a staff development. Thank God our district was so much more progressive, because I'm not sure that many places have had these discussions. And it was uncomfortable, right? Because now I've got to change the way of doing things that I've always done. And then in a language that's very sexist and gender biased, it was a little overwhelming. And then now, as I've had time to process and see and feel it into my skin, it's like, well, what does it matter? What does it matter? I mean, it's kind of like where she came to in the end. And I don't mean that it doesn't matter. I'm saying, like, if you feel comfortable being they, then they it is. Then they it is.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Back to Andrea, the non-binary person. They explain their gender like this. They say, you're happiest on the road when you're not here or there, but in between, the yellow line running down the center of it all like a goddamn sunbeam.
Powerful.
Edgy. Yeah. And true. Choose conviction, they say. Choose conviction. Andrea said also that it's our duty, and this is the big message, I think, of the documentary, In the Good Light. Come see me in the good light. Be that lightning that they talk about. This is your hard life, your sweet and beautiful life.
Perfect conclusion.
Thanks for listening. Now let's pack up this week's episode in the trunk.
Ride shotgun and be a part of our adventure by clicking on the plus sign to subscribe and follow our show. This will help our ratings and, more importantly, inspire us to keep creating fun and engaging content. We would love to hear from you in the comments section or email us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. Use the fast track lane by sharing episodes with friends, family, and anyone who would like to join us on our road trip through retirement.
Be sure to check the show notes for links and contact information. Retired is chauffeured by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It is produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Buckle up and tune in next week so that you won't miss your chance to join our retired road trip. Okay, so let's do that. Let's talk about that poem next week. What do you think?
Yeah. There's so much to say. There's so much depth.
Yeah.